Everyone laughed at the janitor woman because she walked slowly, wore an old blue cleaning uniform, and always kept her eyes down, as if she were ashamed of existing. And every morning when students and teachers passed her in the hallway, they barely noticed her except to smirk, whisper, or sometimes openly mock her, calling her names, joking that she was invisible, that she was just a cleaner. And no one ever asked her name. No one ever wondered where she came from or why her hands trembled slightly when she held the mop, because in their minds she was nothing more than part of the building itself, like a chair or a wall, something meant to be used and ignored. And when the law faculty students laughed the loudest, it hurt the most, because they were training to become defenders of justice, yet had already decided who deserved dignity and who did not. And this woman, whose hair was silver and neatly tied back, whose posture showed both exhaustion and discipline, simply bowed her head and continued cleaning, wiping away footprints, spilled coffee, and arrogance with the same quiet patience every single day. And what none of them knew was that this building, this university, this very law faculty, was once ruled by her voice, by her arguments, by her presence in courtrooms so powerful that judges would fall silent when she stood up. Because decades ago, she had been known across continents as the most formidable legal mind of her generation. A woman who had dismantled corrupt corporations, freed the wrongfully imprisoned, and rewritten legal precedents that were still taught in textbooks under other people's names. But time, betrayal, and sacrifice have a way of erasing legends, especially when the legend is a woman who chose principle over fame. And years earlier, when she exposed a global legal scandal involving powerful judges and international firms, she was offered silence in exchange for wealth and protection. But she refused, and the price of that refusal was everything: her license, her reputation, her career, and eventually her family. And so she disappeared from the world that once praised her, choosing anonymity over compromise, because justice to her was never about applause. And now, decades later, she cleaned the floors of the very system she once tried to save, not because she was weak, but because she believed that even at the bottom, dignity still mattered. And so day after day, she endured the laughter, the insults, the careless cruelty of people who believed success gave them the right to judge others, until one afternoon, everything changed. Because on that day, the university hosted a high-profile mock trial competition sponsored by one of the largest legal corporations in the country, a corporation known for its aggressive tactics and questionable ethics. And the best students were selected to participate, while professors, judges, and executives filled the courtroom, and the janitor woman was instructed to clean quietly in the back and not disturb anyone. And as the trial began, the atmosphere was tense because the case was complex, involving corporate negligence and international law. And the students, despite their confidence, struggled, their arguments shallow, their logic flawed, and whispers began spreading through the audience as disappointment grew. And then it happened. One student confidently presented an argument that was not only wrong but dangerously misleading, twisting the law in a way that could justify real-world injustice. And before anyone could stop herself, the janitor woman spoke, softly at first, correcting a single point of law, and the room froze, because no one expected her voice, and the professor angrily turned and told her to be quiet, reminding her that this was not her place, and laughter rippled again. But then she raised her head, and for the first time they saw her eyes clearly, sharp, focused, unwavering, and she calmly asked for permission to finish the correction, and something in her tone made the presiding judge hesitate, and against protocol he allowed her to speak. And what followed was not just a correction, but a masterclass, as she dismantled the flawed argument piece by piece, citing obscure precedents, international treaties, and ethical principles with precision so exact that even the senior judges leaned forward, and the courtroom fell completely silent, because they were witnessing something rare, something undeniable, raw intellectual authority. And when she finished, no one clapped, no one laughed, they simply stared, and one of the corporate executives recognized her immediately, his face draining of color, because he had once faced her in court and lost everything, and he whispered her name, and that whisper traveled through the room like electricity, and suddenly the janitor was no longer invisible, she was exposed, and the university administration panicked because her presence reminded them of uncomfortable truths, of cases buried, of compromises made. And the judge asked her to step forward and identify herself, and she did, calmly, without pride, without anger, simply stating her name and former position, and gasps echoed through the courtroom as professors realized that the woman they had ignored and allowed to be humiliated was one of the greatest legal minds they had ever studied. And the irony was suffocating, because the very students who mocked her had memorized her arguments without knowing they came from her. And the judge asked why she was here, why someone like her was cleaning floors, and she answered with a truth so simple and so heavy that it silenced the room again. She said that justice is not a ladder but a responsibility, and when the system refuses to correct itself, someone must stay behind to remember what it was supposed to be. And her words cut deeper than any verdict, because they exposed the emptiness of titles without integrity. And the competition was canceled, the corporate sponsor quietly left, and the next day the story was everywhere, headlines calling her the strongest lawyer in the world, students apologizing, administrators offering positions, interviews, awards, and reinstatement of her license. But she refused most of it, because she had not spoken to be restored, she had spoken because silence would have been a lie. And in the end, she accepted only one thing, a small lecture hall where she taught a single class called Ethics and Law, mandatory for every student. And she continued cleaning the halls, not because she had to, but because she chose to, reminding everyone who saw her that worth is not decided by uniform, salary, or status, but the courage to stand for truth even when no one is watching. And the laughter never returned, because once people truly see you, they can never unsee the truth. And the janitor woman, once mocked, once invisible, became the conscience of an entire institution, not by demanding respect, but by proving, quietly and undeniably, that real power does not need permission to exist.